Good day, everyone. Today, I'll be talking about the Spanish colonial period, particularly how it marked the beginning of modern science, technology, and religion in the Philippines. When the Spaniards arrived in 1521, they didn't just bring soldiers, they also brought with them education, religion, and early forms of science. They established schools, hospitals, and centers of learning, which slowly introduced formal education and medical practices to the Filipinos. Because of these institutions, the Philippines began to develop its own professions, like teachers, doctors, and craftsmen. However, we should remember that the development of science and technology during this time was not purely for progress. It was strongly influenced by religion and by the economic goals of Spain. The friars or religious leaders played a major role in shaping society. They weren't just priests, but also teachers, builders, and even scientists. In short, what they taught and built always had to align with the Catholic faith and the colonial agenda. Now, let's move on to religion, which was the central force of Spanish colonialization. By the end of the 16th century, most of the coastal and lowland areas from Luzon to Mindanao were under the Spanish control. The friars marched with soldiers and converted most of the native population to Roman Catholicism. Their ultimate goal was the Christianization and Hispanization of the Filipinos, meaning they wanted the people not just to believe in Christianity, but to live like Spaniards. At first, native religions were strictly suppressed. Ancient practices and rituals were forbidden, but over time, as more locals converted and the priest's zeal faded, old beliefs began to blend with Catholicism. That's why, even today, we see Filipino customs mixed with Christian traditions. There were several reasons why the Spanish missionaries succeeded in converting Filipinos. First, the mass baptisms, where large groups were converted at once. Second, the reduction policy, which gathered scattered villages into centralized communities. Third, the friars learned local languages, making it easier for them to communicate with the locals. And lastly, they added adapted Christianity to native beliefs, so Filipinos could accept their new religion without entirely abandoning their own traditions. In short, during the Spanish colonial period, religion shaped their direction of education, culture, and science, influencing the Filipino way of life for centuries to come.
Now let's move on the topic of social classes and government during the Spanish period. When the Spaniards colonized the Philippines, they created a very strict social hierarchy, or in simple words, a clear line between rich and the poor, the powerful and the powerless. At the top of society were the Peninsulares. These were Spaniards who were born in Spain. They held the highest positions in government and church, and they enjoyed the wealth and privileges. Next were Insulares, also called Criollos. They were still pure-blooded Spaniards, but they were born here in the Philippines. Although they were still respected, they often treated as lesser than Peninsulares because they were born outside of Spain. Below them were the Principalia, the local Filipino elites. These were the native leaders who had good relationship with the Spaniards. Many of them were former datus or chiefs before the Spanish came. Because they cooperated with the colonizers, they were rewarded with land, money, and local government position, such as Gobernadorcillos or Cabeza de Barangay. They acted as the link between the Spanish rulers and the Filipino people. Then came the mestizos, or those of mixed ancestry, half Filipino or half Spanish or half Chinese. They often became merchants, landowners, and later on some of them even joined the Ilustrados, the educated class that would lead reform movements. And finally, at the bottom of the society were the Indios, the native and finally, at the bottom of the society were the Indios, the native Filipinos. They were the farmers, laborers, and common people who paid taxes and served in polo y servicio, or forced labor system. They had very little power or freedom compared to the higher classes. Now let's talk about the Spanish colonial government itself. It was highly centralized, meaning all authority came from the King of Spain, and was passed down to the one man, the Governor General. The Governor General was the most powerful official in the Philippines. He represented the king, had control over the military, made laws, collected taxes, and even had influence over the church. In short, whatever the governor general said, everyone had to follow. To make sure he didn't abuse his power, there were systems of checks and balances. The Royal Audiencia acted as a court and gave advice to the governor. The Residencia investigated the actions of outgoing governors, while the Visita was an inspection that checked local conditions and officials. On the local level, the country was divided into provinces. Fully controlled provinces were called alcaldias, led by an alcalde mayor. Partially controlled provinces were called corregimientos, headed by a corregidor.
Gobernador Cilius headed several towns whose main concerns were efficient governance and tax collection.
Spanish colonization greatly changed agriculture in the Philippines. By the late 19th century, export crops like tobacco, abaca, and sugarcane dominated the economy. Nicholas Loney, a British consul in Iloilo, modernized the sugar industry by introducing steam-powered refineries and promoting large plantations in Negros. This marked the rise of cash crop economy, where farming focused on exports rather than local food production. However, this agricultural progress had serious consequences. The Spaniard introduced private land ownership, replacing the native communal systems. Many Filipinos lost their ancestral lands and became tenants or laborers. Under the encomienda system, land was granted to Spaniards who collected tribute from natives, often leading to abuse and widespread end loss. The Maura Law of 1894 worsened the situation by requiring costly land registration that many peasants could not afford or understand. Around 400,000 farmers lost their lands and were forced to work as tenants. Conflicts also arose from the friar lands where high taxes called canon burdened tenants. In the end, Spanish agrarian policies benefited a few wealthy landlords while trapping most Filipino farmers in poverty. This deep social inequality and loss of land became one of the lasting legacies of Spanish rule in the Philippines.
Education and language during the Spanish colonial period in the Philippines. The Spaniards introduced a European-style system of education, where schools were established by religious missionaries who were responsible for teaching both religious doctrines and secular subjects, such as reading, writing, arithmetic, and music, with the goal of spreading Catholicism while also providing basic academic knowledge to selected individuals. Although education was technically offered for free, it was only available to children aged 7 to 13, and in reality, it primarily benefited boys who came from wealthy and influential families, known as the Ilustrados, since they were the ones who had the means, time, and social standing to take advantage of such opportunities provided by the Spanish. Furthermore, there were clearly separate schools for boys and girls, and the entire educational system was strictly controlled by the clergy, who ensured that teachings aligned with Catholic values and Spanish colonial interests. In addition to basic education, the Spanish colonial government also established higher learning institutions, one of the most notable being the University of Santo Tomas, founded in 1611, which is recognized today as one of the oldest universities in Asia and became a center for advanced studies during the colonial era. When it comes to language, the Spanish language had a profound and long-lasting influence on various Filipino dialects, as many commonly used Filipino words, particularly in Tagalog, Ilocano, and Visayan languages, were derived from Spanish vocabulary, especially in areas related to religion, government, time, numbers, and daily life. However, despite this influence, Spanish education was not made fully accessible to the entire native population, which meant that most Filipinos only learned Spanish informally, usually through daily interactions in markets, churches, and public gatherings, rather than through formal school. Lastly, Spanish missionaries contributed to a major cultural shift by replacing the native Baybayin script with the Latin alphabet, which eventually became the standard writing system in the Philippines and remains widely used in the country up to the present day.
Lastly, let's discuss medicine and health during the Spanish colonial period. Medical practice was limited because supplies depended on the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. To fill the gap, religious missionaries served as local doctors, using herbs and natural remedies. One of the most notable figures was Father Francisco Ignacio Alsina, who in 1668 documented native medicinal plants. Some examples included anonang leaves. This used to treat ulcers and stomach pain, likely due to their properties that soothe the digestive tract or contain anti-inflammatory compounds. Second is salaksak. This used as a natural remedy for constipation, indicating its function as a laxative or digestive aid. Third is salibutbut. This primarily used for treating wounds, suggesting it possesses antiseptic or healing properties that promote tissue repair. Then lastly, sampagita roots. This employed to help with childbirth, which may indicate its traditional use for soothing labor pains or aiding uterine muscle functions. And also, the sampagita flower is also the natural flower of the Philippines. The friars also promoted hydrotherapy or healing through hot springs, such as the Hospital de Nuestra Señora de las Aguas Santas de Mainit in Los Baños, Laguna. In obstetrics, priests tried to address high childbirth mortality. Father Julian Bermejo wrote instructions for midwives, and Father Gregorio Sanz wrote sacred embryology. However, surgery was primitive. Most patients who underwent operations did not survive due to pain and infection. Despite limitation, these early efforts laid the groundwork for modern medicine in the Philippines.
In conclusion, the Spanish colonial period greatly shaped the Philippines, introducing religion, education, science, medicine, and technology, but also creating systems of inequality. The foundations of our current institutions, from schools to hospitals, can trace their roots to this era. Thank you, and that ends our presentation.